Complainers never win in life. I don't know if you guys realize how much time you may spend complaining, or, for the most part, whether we're at work with coworkers, whether we're at home with our spouse, our girlfriend, or our family, right? Unconsciously, we tend to complain, right? I'm definitely a victim of it. I am actually not that great at, being conscious of myself when I'm complaining. So when you complain, right, by default, obviously, we like to vent, we like to get things off our chest, but the perpetual complaining about something like a job or any outcome, any circumstance in your life that you don't like, the perpetual complaining just reinforces that reality to you, right? And unfortunately speaking, like, the problem with complaining is that it trains you to be a victim, right? Because when you complain about something, right, over and over again, continuously, right, you start to get in this sort of like victimhood, like state of mind where you just think it's unsolvable, right? Where you just think like life is happening to you and you don't have any control over what the future trajectory of your life is going to be. You think that it's just sort of like your fate to be, in this situation or whatever, like family situation, toxic family situation, or a shitty job situation, whatever the case is. So instead of complaining, right, you have to realize that there's two things you can do in life, right? Whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a family situation, right? You can either act or you can just react, right? And reacting, right, that's just complaining. For the most part, you're just basically cycling around what you don't like about it, which is not really tenable to the solution. On the other hand, right, you can act, right, which means you understand that, hey, this is an issue, right, that this is a problem, and if you don't like it, right, you look and see what's your option, right? Like, for example, let's just say you live in a shitty family situation and you're trying to get out, right? Let's say maybe it may not be toxic, but maybe you just don't like it, right? It could go as far as, just it being too noisy. It could go as far as, maybe your family or people that they have in the house are doing drugs, and it's just not a very uplifting environment. You have to ask yourself, okay, what's the solution? Can I go live with roommates, right? Can I go can I go live on my own? And the question also may come up as to how you're going to do that, right? Like, because you might not have the money. Let's say you don't have the money to leave, right? Well, you have to ask yourself, how do I get the money? And some things, you'll be able to look into some things you can do, right? Get a job, for example, right? How, and if you have to look and see, like, what is your living arrangement like, right? How much will it cost? You have to look at jobs that align with that living arrangement, that can afford that living arrangement. So that's just but one example, right? Like, and then you can navigate that successfully. Or let's say you don't like a job, right? You don't like the people in your job. You don't like, how things are run. You don't like just how things, you just don't like the situation that you're in when it comes to your job. What do you do, right? Or maybe you don't like the pay. What do? You look at what's available, right? And you ask yourself this question. This is the question that is most paramount to really anything, right? But specifically, I think it really is important to the question of what to do when it comes to, like, changing careers or switching jobs. Is, what can I tolerate? That has to be the ultimate question you ask yourself, because we all have to do. Let me be very clear about what I'm going to say right now. Work sucks. Doesn't matter what type of work you do. All work is laborious. All work is boring. All work can be stressful. All work can be just not fun, not exciting. So with that knowledge, with that, with accepting that reality, you have to then navigate your life, your job hunt, or whatever you're doing, in such a way that aligns with what you can tolerate, right? Because some jobs, like, I'll be honest, like, there's some things, guys, I'll be honest, I just don't want to do, right? I don't care how much they pay. I don't care how close it is to my house. I don't care how good it may seem on paper. if I can't see myself doing that job, or I can just picture it being miserable, I don't care again how beneficial it might be on the outside. If I don't want to be there and do what the job requires me to do, right, I'm not going to do it. But I also realize that, again, I have to pay bills, I have to, put food on my table, and there has to be some degree of understanding that it just has to be something you can tolerate. You're not going to love it, you're not going to, dance up and down and say, yay, I'm this or I'm that, but at the end of the day, remember, sometimes you just have to put your head down and do what you have to do, right? I don't think anybody likes work. Look at people who go on welfare. Look at, why, we have people that want to vote in a socialist state, right? Because no one wants to fucking work. That's just what everything comes down to, right? When it comes to, just obviously the welfare state, but also, people who vote in to pay higher taxes, right? We just want to cater to people who don't want to work, right? Or not me or you, but I'm just saying, like the Democratic Socialist Party, right? That's a perfect example. So, not to get too political, right? But that's kind of the idea behind, human beings, right? We're lazy by default. So, with that understanding, right, you can realize why, lazy people for the most part, right, don't want to do shit that's hard, right? Don't want to do shit that requires a steep barrier to entry, right? Like going to school or, getting certified in something, right? But once you're sold on what you want, once you're sold on, the path you are willing to take to change your situation, especially when it comes to a career change, then you'll be willing to endure whatever you have to endure to get to that point, right? Because, and I'm not saying that the grass is always greener on the other side, but sometimes, guys, the grass is greener on the other side, right? There are some things that you might deal with right now in your current job, that you may not deal with in the job that you want to get or the career field that you want to get into. So never be unwilling to change your career. Never be unwilling to leave certain environments. Never be unwilling to just change things around, because, guys, let's be very upfront and clear. Life is seems very hopeless and meaningless and just like not worth living if you're not growing, if you're not involved in something that you can see yourself doing, for a long period of time, especially when it comes to careers. So, and then obviously, like the home situation, that can also be something that can really derail you and discourage you as well. So just, I want you to keep some of these things in mind as you navigate life and as you get older, because again, I don't want the goal in life is honestly to be as happy as you can be. Obviously that, you're not always going to be happy, but for the most part, right, there's certain things that you can do, right, especially when it comes to, your place of employment and where you live, right, that will affect your levels of happiness, right? And if you're not happy, if you're continuously complaining, right, you're just reinforcing the existence that you're involved in. And again, that just recycles, repeat and recycle, right? When you complain, you repeat that complaining process, you just recycle the current life that you're in. And again, you have to ask yourself the question too, do you want to keep, like my thing, especially with careers and jobs, like, do you want to keep making the same amount of money year after year, right? Guys, after about 2 years of making the same money, unless you're making good enough money to be able to, fund a lifestyle that you want, whether it's to invest or to just, be able to afford things, or just be able to save money, whatever goal you want as far as your finances. If that's the case, right, if you're making that type of money where you're able to do that, great. But if you're not making the money that you want, right, and you're stuck, I think it's okay for 1 to 2 years to make the same amount of money. But after 1 to 2 years, right, especially if you're not making enough to save, especially if you're not making enough to, just fund whatever you want to fund as far as your life goes, then you need to seriously inquire about how you can change that. Because if you're making the same amount of money each year, right, inflation, guys, unfortunately speaking, inflation is not something that's going to stop. And we know that. We've seen that over, you know, the past 100 years, right? And you know, prices of goods may come down for a short period of time, but eventually they go back up, right? Same thing with gasoline and everything else. So if you're not, you know, continuously increasing your income, right, to be able to invest, to be able to save to invest, then by default you're falling behind, and the financial freedom goal that, you know, you may have for yourself, right, and, you know, whatever time frame that is, it's not going to really come to fruition, right, if you're not willing to change. So in life, guys, sometimes you have to be willing to do things that are uncomfortable, right? And that might mean changing jobs. That might mean putting yourself in an uncomfortable environment where, you know, you may not like what you do. You may not you know, find it as, you may not like, you may not expect what you don't, fuck, I'm trying to find the right word. The new thing that you get involved with, whether it's a job or a career, it might not be what you expect, right? You might find out that, you know what, it wasn't for me. But you know what, here's the thing, right? If you get into something and you find out it wasn't for you, that's just another thing off the list, right, of you figuring your shit out, right, as far as your career and what you like and what you don't like, as far as like a job or profession goes. So yeah, I just wanted to bring this up because, you know, oftentimes we can sort of get in like an autopilot routine where we're just living every single day and not really questioning what we're doing. We get caught in these complaining, you know, cycles and, you know, constant reiteration of, you know, things that we don't like, and it can be miserable, right? I think complaining is one of the biggest things that contributes to a miserable life, right? So if you're complaining, right, understand that there's something you can do about it. And if you continuously, here's, you know, the cold harsh truth, if you continuously complain without you willing to do something about it, just don't expect things to change. Don't expect your life to get any better. Don't expect things to unfold the way you would like them to. So yeah, guys, that's it. That's all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them down below. And as always, I will talk to you guys soon. Peace.